If you want to know where the white devils are, Mr. Louis Farrakhan, I can tell you right now they run the Democratic Party 100%, and they've got black people in their web murdering your people, and they love it, and they think that people don't see them. Well, I see them, and I know who they are.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Almighty God, Allah, revealed to him that the white race is a race of devils. And the only way, white folks, you can come out of this, because you cannot be reformed. You cannot reform a devil. All the prophets tried and failed. You have to kill the devil. Devil meaning wicked by nature. What more could a devil do than what has been done to the black man of America? Don't you send these children out here with the thought of murder in their mind. Oh, yes, I am. It's putting to death time today. You know how mommy said when it's time to sleep, you've been raising hell all day? Betty, bye-bye. Time to go bye-bye. Time to go to sleep. Well, it's time for the white man's mind to be put to eternal rest. Any human being who gives themselves over to the doing of evil could be considered a devil. It is the divine power of Almighty God, Allah, that is now bringing about the destruction of the United States of America.
So if the federal government will not intercede in our affairs, then we must rise up and kill those who kill us. We want some of this earth, because we'll tear this goddamn country up. Stop them and kill them and let them feel the pain of death that we are feeling.
Gentlemen, we're going to interview Louis Farrakhan. Doesn't do a lot of interviews. We're flying out this Sunday.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday, what time?
At 3 o'clock.
We're interviewing him on the 4th. I agree with a lot of stuff he says about Planned Parenthood, vaccines, false flag terror. He's a very interesting guy. I want to talk to him about Malcolm X, you name it. I don't agree with, white people can't be reformed and they're the devil. He hadn't said that in a long time. But I'm going to really see how much he's evolved or grown. And I'm really just seeking to open up a dialogue, because somebody like Louis Farrakhan is so key when it comes to stopping the big foundations and the social engineers in this country and around the world to really start a race war or divide and conquer. I mean, nobody's winning with this war against Islam overseas that's just really causing a Sunni Shiite civil war. Nobody's winning with the males versus the females and the whole feminist thing. I want to hear what he thinks about political correctness and so much more, because the last few years, I see Louis Farrakhan saying more and more things that I agree with, and then occasionally saying something that I disagree with.
The Constitution warns that America must never let anyone set up a central bank.
Right now, the President of the United States is given authority to assassinate American citizens.
But I want to go over some of this research that you guys have done, that their people have sent us as well. And hopefully we can do an interview that's really deep and that isn't just, picked up by the tabloids with whatever zingers he throws in there. And certainly you're not going to avoid that. But I really kind of want to find the real Louis Farrakhan here.
Louis Walcott from Boston. Louis Walcott, front and center. Louis. Fiddler, I see you're quite a fellow up there in Boston. It says here that you're a track runner at English High School and that you've equaled every record in school, right?
Yes, and I hope to break some next year when I put on a little more weight.
You do, huh?
Yes.
How about your violin? Can you play that as fast as you can run?
Well, not quite, but I've got a lot to learn. I hope to break some records with this someday.
You're just a champion at heart, aren't you?
The system doesn't want this. us going out to interview this guy. We're supposed to be kept in our little electronic ghettos. We're supposed to be kept in our little reservations, our little plantations. That's what Google does now, is sends you news you agree with. We want to go actually try to work with people and talk to people and humanize it, because that's the last thing the globalists want.
I've interviewed a lot of people, and I've snuck in places like Bohemian Grove. I've been attacked at political demonstrations, been arrested many times. But I gotta say, this is probably the most surreal drive I've ever made to go meet someone that I'm gonna be interviewing. Louis Farrakhan. I remember watching him on C-SPAN when I was really getting politically awake and aware, when I was like a sophomore in high school. And my mom would come in on the weekend when I'm eating lunch, watching it in the kitchen, and she'd say, "What are you doing watching Louis Farrakhan?"
The government for which you work is the #1 enemy of the black man of America and the world.
And here we are driving to their Phoenix headquarters. And look, it'd be easy to score a bunch of points and just be rude and make radical Islamic comments to him or whatever. I'm not going to do that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones, for honoring us with your presence. We have watched you as you have watched us, and I have learned a lot from InfoWars and some of the wonderful things that you have done. We're two people interested in truth. We're two people that live in the greatest nation on this earth, but the nation is not now what it could be if truth, unfettered, would be given to the American people. And perhaps through this dialogue, that might happen.
Well, I have to say, thank you for having me in your home and with your family. Driving over here, I talked about some of the reasons that I wanted to interview you. And then when I had a chance to be in your home right before the interview, you basically mirrored what I had to say. So in your own words, I'd like you to really, for the TV viewing audience out there, go over some of the interesting things that you had to say to me and to the audience, because it just dovetailed exactly where I was going. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever had that happen before with an interview. So I'm really glad this is happening here today, because as you know, there are forces that are trying to divide and conquer humanity, and we're really coming to a crossroads where people are being told to choose a side, but I don't think the sides they're telling us to choose are real sides. So I'm trying to get people to think outside the box, and when I spoke to you earlier, that was basically your main focus. So I think this interview is meant to happen for a reason, so thank you so much for giving us the time in your busy schedule. So please just if you could recapture what you told me in there earlier, it was very interesting.
In the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his great teacher, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, who came to enliven the black people in particular, he taught us that he never used color in this question and answer. He asked the question, who are the 85%? Who are the 10%? And who are the 5%? And in the answers that Mr. Muhammad gave that we study, 85% of the people don't understand the law of cause and effect. And wherever there is an effect that is real, the cause is just as real, though oftentimes the hidden hand that's manipulating and creating the effect and the circumstances that begin to divide and destroy. This kind of satanic mind is absolutely in control. And that satanic mind is hiding with a mask of humanity and civility, but now it is gradually being exposed. There are those at the top who guide and govern, who are not necessarily the friend of the masses of the people that they are governing. So it is the 5%, just a small group who know the truth, who understand the law of cause and effect, and they don't believe in a mystery God that's somewhere making things happen. If there's a real evil, then there's a real devil. If there's a real saint, then there's a real good person doing saintly things. So here we are. Now a conspiracy absolutely is in vogue.
Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems.
It's time to stop submitting to this tyranny. It's time to realize that we're being enslaved.
Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner.
Tyranny with a capital T.
You should reject these voices.
Everything that's been done with torture, rendition, the NDAA, the Patriot Acts 1 and 2, from day one was focused on the American people, period. That's it. It's always been about erasing the Bill of Rights and Constitution and rolling out NSA spying publicly, saying it's for Al-Qaeda, rolling out torture, saying it's for Al-Qaeda, but it's really for the general public, rolling out total control and the end of any underground free market systems in the name of fighting Al-Qaeda, but really shutting down any type of free commerce. This is all about converting us from a free society to a tyranny with a capital T.
But I've asked certain people who say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist, and they call you the same. I said, but do you read the scriptures of the Bible and Quran? Is not Satan real? Evil is real, so Satan is real.
That really is a revolutionary thought, that if you question the establishment, you question what they're saying when they're known liars, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's like saying you're a heretic. Okay, well, if we're a heretic against the system, I guess we're a heretic against the devil. Because this system, undoubtedly, you couldn't call it good. And from my research, that's my concern. The 5%, the 1%, the 1/10 of 1% that actually run and control, manipulate things, they believe they're going to end up winning. They believe that they're getting ahead of people by keeping folks dumbed down. But common sense shows, and just my gut tells me, you don't screw people over and then long-term get away with it. It comes back on you. And I think the people serving this system are some of the most deceived out there, because they know how the world really works, but they've decided to basically try to screw over their fellow humans as if they're going to get ahead by doing that. I mean, just anybody who's God-fearing in their gut level has to know that's a lie.
Well, Mr. Jones, in reality, there are those who go along to get along. They know what they're doing, but they do not know the vast evil that they are a part of. So the politicians today, I looked at the many Republicans and Democrats that are trying to win the nomination of their party. And it says to me, you know, it's like I don't want to be vulgar, but it's like you, in any major city, you see women undressed, showing their wares for a John, to buy them. And it's like politicians who don't have money but have ideas, and they parade themselves before rich and powerful people to get money apparently for their ideas that the rich agree with. But the moment that they become what they're looking to become, they find that the rich have an agenda for them, that the rich have something to ask of them, like the John asks of the prostitute. And that's one of the things that I admire about Mr. Trump, because he told them all, I don't want your money.
Politicians are all talk, no action. Most of them don't know what they're doing. They just run. They're like, like you wind them up and they run for office. They're controlled fully by the lobbyists, by the donors, and by the special interests, fully.
And you said recently, quote, when you give, they do whatever the hell you want them to do.
You better believe it.
So what specifically did they do?
If I ask them, if I need them, most of the people on this stage I've given to, just so you understand, a lot of money.
So from your experience in all, tracking the media, experiencing demonization campaigns, it's a big deal to have Louis Farrakhan come out and say, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan come out and say, hey, we should look at Trump. Can you flesh that out and elaborate? Because undoubtedly they're going to try to take that and then twist it.
Well, I said recently that if the American people voted for Trump, he could take them into the abyss of hell. He's free, he's rich, he hates political correctness, and rightly so. But he said some things that I would hope that he would get around him persons who could help him, because as a businessman par excellence, he has people around him to help him do business. But if he says, let's go in to Iraq and take the oil, that puts him in the class of those neoconservatives who had a project for a new American century. And they wrote to Bill Clinton and Trent Lott, and they talked about attacking Iraq and taking out Saddam Hussein, not just because he may be in their eyes a dictator and was once on the payroll of the CIA in the war against Iran and Ayatollah Khomeini, but he had become a thorn in their sides, and they wanted to get rid of him.
He kind of become a Trump. He was doing his own thing.
Yes.
That was his crime.
And that is the crime of those who refuse to come under the control of the IMF or the World Bank.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Our government has gone into nations with money from our Congress to stimulate the dissatisfied and then arm them against a government that is their government. That's what America did in Libya. That's what they're doing in Syria. And the blowback now is they have created a refugee crisis that is destabilizing the countries in Europe. So when Mr. Trump said, we can't allow these Muslims, refugees, into America. Now, a lot of people were upset with him, but I know, sir, that the hatred for America in the Muslim world is building, as we told Mr. Bush, no Muslim leader could call for jihad and have it stick. No Muslim leader had the power to unite the whole Muslim world. I said, but America's policies will unite those people against the West, and it is happening. So in this way, Mr. Trump, I think, is wise to vet anyone coming from that area into America, because the hatred for America is in the streets now. So if those people are refugees and America feels I gotta let 10,000 of them in because America created the problem. Now, if you let them in and you don't vet them carefully, you might be letting in your own destruction.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
No matter how hard the schemers plan to destroy the good that can come to the people with proper governance, they are losing and they will lose, because they have set a trap, but they're getting caught in their own trap. The American people are waking up. The masses all over the earth are beginning to rise. And that's why Zbigniew Brzezinski said,
namely in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
So all kinds of schemes are developing to kill mass populations. And you may have heard us say that the gentleman that was the Secretary of State under Nixon, Mr. Kissinger, developed this memo called Memo 200, in which he said that 2 billion people on this earth had to be culled because the resources of the earth are getting shorter, the population getting more, so we got to kill billions of people. And it's going on as we speak. The radical, you call them the pharmaceutical companies. Who goes against them? Nobody. Who goes against the gun lobby? Nobody. They don't have the power to change it. It's not that the American people shouldn't have guns. That's what the Constitution declares. We as Muslims, our leader told us, no weapons, not even as much as a penknife, because in our homes, the Nation of Islam has taught hundreds of thousands of people, and in the nation, you never hear Muslim killing Muslim in an argument, because we are taught that it's the truth that settles all arguments. So we don't have a gun to reach for or a knife to reach for. We reach for our intelligence and we argue over the truth. What is the truth? And if the truth is from my wife and it condemns an action of mine, I have to bow down to the truth. I can't raise my fist and strike her because it's against our law.
I agree with you that free speech and liberation trumps violence. The problem is when an outside group comes who isn't going to listen to what you're having to say, then you have a right to defend yourself, but separately, because that's one of my main questions, and I've got to get to it with you. Sure. And then you just started getting into it before I even asked it. This is an amazing interview because you're just following where I was going to go without me even asking the question, so it's amazing. But eugenics. Yes, 1,100 people get shot by the police every year and killed. In some cases, in fact, in a lot of cases, it's in the wrong. Sometimes bad officers get away with it. I've written books on the subject. I've criticized it. I'm the guy that tried to expose the police state. But the police are only one small part of the police state. And for me, it becomes a scapegoat when we just make it about them and then project what bad officers do on other officers. And then I look separately at how they used hatred of police in Ukraine, George Soros did, to just now overthrow that government, not to empower the people, it was an elected government, but to create an even bigger crisis. So I see more than 1 million black people aborted every year on average. In some states, more than half the abortions are wonderful, beautiful black babies. And I don't hear a word about this from the liberal black leaders, the white black leaders, or any of them. I know you speak about it. And so I kind of measured. You got 1 million dead black people over here, chopped up babies. We know they're innocent. You can even watch some of the sonogram videos where they're fighting the scalpel with their hands and their feet. I don't care what color the baby is. They fight for their lives because they're red-blooded. And then over here, I've got 1,100 dead people. Maybe 1,000 of them are black. Let's say all 1,000 of them were murdered in cold blood. The system's telling me to get upset about that all day and make that my main focus. When over here I've got 1 million dead black people and millions of dead white people and millions of dead other human beings.
I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born.
And then I read Margaret Sanger going, we're going to pose as liberals. We're going to go into these black communities. We're going to buy off their preachers. We're going to get control of them, and we're going to get them in these big cities. And I look at the big liberal cities where they've taken the guns from the black people, where they've shipped the drugs in, where they've got the Planned Parenthood in every corner. And I tell you, growing up around conservatives, libertarians, I never heard racist talk in Dallas, Texas. When I started hearing the racist talk was when I would get around liberals and Democrats and people when I was in college, and when I was getting politically involved, I'd have white liberals and black liberals come up to me and they say, nobody wants these trashy black scum, and if you want them, you take them.
Why are you so worried about a psycho? Ultimately, your sympathies do not lie with black people. They lie with your racist, white, middle-class agenda, and that's where it will always lie, and you will be destroyed holding that line.
Okay, I adopted 2 children.
Oh, good for you, white savior. Aren't you so proud?
They're not white. He's
exactly,
not
he's not white. Exactly,
He's
you're a
not
white
white.
savior. You think that it is the white man's duty to fix everybody's problems, right?
How many did you adopt?
How many did I adopt? I kill my kids. How many did I adopt? I kill my kids.
I kill my kids.
Babies, I pay for that.
You know something?
I pay all my money for that. I get free abortions on demand without apology.
You are wicked as
Yep,
hell.
and I'm going to hell. Yeah, I still pay to kill babies, though.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How do you get your abortions paid for?
I pay for them.
I thought you said
How many
3.
have you paid for?
Upwards of 50.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you must make
I
a lot
raise
of
money from the community for it.
Oh, you don't use your money? You multiply your efforts, huh?
And I'm going to tell you right now, that's where I've heard the racism. That's where I've heard the sneakiness. And if you want to know where the white devils are, Mr. Louis Farrakhan, I can tell you right now they run the Democratic Party 100%, and they've got black people in their web murdering your people, and they love it, and they think that people don't see them. Well, I see them, and I know who they are. And I don't care what color a baby is. My soul won't allow me to hate somebody because of what color they are, because I know I'll be destroyed if I ever go that direction. And so that's where I stand. That's why I wanted to have this meeting with you, because you already tell people a lot of great things, and I know you reach tens of millions. But if you, which you've already done, magnified, exposing what's in the vaccines. They've caught them in Africa and India with the sterilants, you know that. If you exposed the abortion, which I know you do, and said, you know what, somebody kills you and gets away with it, they need to be dealt with. I agree. Well, what about what's going on in these abortuaries? What about Planned Parenthood? What about what's happening there?
When I was on the mall a few weeks ago in Washington, I talked about my mom, and I talked about the circumstances around my birth. And my mother knew that if I came to birth, I could disrupt her relationship with the man that she was with, because my father, whom she married, and he was a handsome philanderer, so she got rid of him, but he came back on the scene, and she was pregnant with me. The man, my mother's very dark, and the man that gave my mother her first child is very dark. So my brother is dark, but my father was light-skinned, curly-haired. So she was afraid that if that baby came to birth and was light-skinned, it would destroy her relationship with that man. So she decided to abort me. And she tried 3 times to abort me, and on the 3rd time, in those days, she used a hanger, and she was unsuccessful, and I came to birth. And I said that on the mall to all those people that were there and to the millions who were watching. If my mother was successful in aborting me, what would the world have lost? Jesus was born under strange circumstances, and she had to be put away privily, as the Bible teaches, because if she were seen pregnant, the law was, where's the husband? Where's the father? Well, you say Holy Ghost, but we know there's no human being born without the agency of a man. That's real. So they would have killed Mary. But her baby was the last prophet to the Jewish people, Jesus. I'm saying that to say this. Every prayer that we pray is answered through the womb of a woman, and a baby that was given a chance to live and to grow. And that's why we're against eugenics. Mr. Muhammad was death on birth control. He called it a death plan by the government against poor people. So we find that we are kindred spirits in so many ways. And you know, Mr. Jones, I felt that today. I felt that when we met and you could question me and strip away whatever there is, if there's something to be stripped away, that America could see me as I am, white people could see me as I am.
How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep quiet.
In the mind of Satan was to set up a one-world government where he would be in charge. They talk about me, but they won't confront me.
What the hell business is it of yours? America should keep her mouth shut. I didn't mean to be so fiery.
No, that's good. That's good.
That's my passion.
As a student of my teacher, I think I should always be dignified in my expression, although sometimes impassioned. I lose it.
Absolutely.
And so I thought about, when they said Farrakhan, he wants to kill all white people, and he's advocating 10,000 fearless men to go out and kill white people, as though I'm insane. That's insanity. And I've been teaching for 60 years, sir. And no one who follows me has ever gone out and killed a white person, harmed a Jewish person, bombed a synagogue, or even put some swastika on a synagogue, because that's against our religion to deface a house of worship. I'm saying that to say this. When I said in Florida, naming all the blacks that got shot down, and according to something I just read, where one black man every 28 hours is shot by a policeman, and young black men are 9 times more likely than other Americans to be killed by police officers in 2015, according to the findings of the Guardian newspaper. 1,134 deaths at the hands of law enforcement officers happened last year. As a black man who loves my people, I'm grieved not only at police killing us, but I am grieved at our killing of each other, which sometimes is 10 times more than what white policemen have done. So in my passion against that, and this has been gradually increasing with me over the years, I said, if the federal government does not intercede to see that justice comes to us, because that's the government's job. It's not my job to kill my killer. It's the government's job to arrest the killer, bring them before a court of law, and punish them for their misdeed. But when the government fails to do it, what are we to do? We have to defend our lives. And so I said, stalk them wherever you find them. Not everybody, just the ones that kill us out of the law of justice. If the government won't arrest them and do that, somehow we're going to ultimately do that, and then it leads to what they'll say, it's a race war. No, we are not in any position at all to engage in a race war. It's ridiculous, it's destructive, it's suicidal. However, persecution in the Quran, it says, is worse than slaughter. And you talk about 1776.
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand?
And you are so right. But in 1776, America had enough. The colonial people under Britain had enough. So when Patrick Henry said, give us liberty, or we are willing to pay the price, which is death, you force people into that when government fails to do its job to redress the grievance of the people who are suffering.
I will put this interview out basically unedited. I mean, we'll put a lot of clips in and articles and things, but we're going to put almost the whole interview out basically. Mainstream media, they're going to take just what you said, even though you quoted Patrick Henry and the rest of it. I guarantee you they're going to take that and just show the clip again out of context. And they do that with me too. So I'm asking you, how do we deal with that? when there's nothing we can do. I guess mainstream media is losing credibility, losing ratings. Even USA Today a few weeks ago admitted television for politics is dead. It faces its mortality. So I think I just answered my question. They've discredited themselves, but still, they just go on lying, they go on twisting.
Talk show host is Alex Jones. He's a conspiracy theorist. Radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
His name is Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist. Radio talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, the nutjob radio guy.
Talk show host Alex Jones.
A man who trades in such sinister conspiracy theories, you have to wonder if he really believes half of what he says.
I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
Hate speech. Can anything be done to stop the hatred? I think Alex was the one who took the pro-gun position.
1776 will commence again if you try to take off firearms.
I don't want that man to have a gun.
Alex Jones is a 9/11 truther.
That conspiracy theory comes from the mother of all conspiracy theories. It's an internet talk show called InfoWars.
I heard that on Alex Jones, so it's true.
Dane.
I heard it on Alex Jones, so I know it's true.
You're making some very serious allegations against the U.S. government, saying that they stage attacks, they allow them to occur in the United States against U.S.
Let's
citizens.
declassify.
Alex Jones may sound crazy.
I think that Alex Jones is a lunatic.
That man's a threat to this country.
King of the conspiracy theorists.
Deeply, I think, racist.
I just got called racist by MSNBC.
He's considered legit among the crazy.
Challenge Alex Jones to a boxing match, show up with a semi-automatic that you got legally, and pop him.
I'd love to see that. In uniform.
Keep shoving lies at your audience, jackasses.
I like that guy.
That is the best.
The American people deserve a government that is truly of the people, by the people, and for the people. They don't have that kind of government as we speak. I hear Mr. Trump and other white Americans say, we must take our country back. And my question, Mr. Jones, take it back from whom?
That was my next question. You were alluding to the Federal Reserve you've been a big critic of for 40, 50 years. Can you speak specifically to the Federal Reserve? You talked about Congress taking its power to print and coin the money back.
What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter.
I mean, that is such an incredible statement. I mean, that's the real rulers right there, in my view.
They boldly declare, we run this. And for the American people to think that a black man in the White House has taken over this country, you know, that is so far from the truth, because he's just the CEO of USA Inc., and they can either hire him or fire him for the job that he's doing, but he's not in control. Did you know that it was John Kennedy who recognized that there was a shadow government? Kennedy said, we are opposed around the world
by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
This is why John Kennedy was killed. He understood the conspiracy, and as far back as the founding fathers of this nation, they knew that there would be those who would try to take over the set up the Bank of America.
Private central bank.
A private central bank. And they were told to guard against that. And under Woodrow Wilson, in 1913, the guard left. One of the Rockefellers met on Jekyll Island with Paul Warburg and his brother, who were from the Rothschilds. They wanted to set up, like the 5 children of Rothschild Sr., the Bank of Italy, the Bank of Austria, the Bank of France, the Bank of England, all started by the banking family. Well, who cares who the politicians are, Mr. Rothschild said, as long as they control the wealth. So they bankrolled both sides of a conflict and ended up ruling both sides.
Fighters say they often manage to defeat much larger armies, like the Iraqi military, because they're not afraid to die.
Al-Qaeda in Iraq 4 years ago was allowed to set up bases in the west of Iraq and invade eastern Syria. They started the civil war 4 years ago in Syria. They were given massive funding. They're 65%, according to NATO, of the rebel force. The Council on Foreign Relations last year had the headline, "Why We Need Al-Qaeda." And they said, give them air support to take over the country and we'll remove them later. Boom.
I know Obama is just a pitchman, a CEO, as you say, but at the same time, I didn't support him or McCain because I was just hoping that Obama would come in and actually bring reconciliation. How naive I was. Clearly, the systems used him to create racial division, all these problems. Look at what they did to Gaddafi. A Republican couldn't have gotten away with that. Imagine if Bush would have been doing that, what you would have had to say about him. I know you had strong words for Obama, but now Obama, Hillary, the neocons behind him, turning loose a multi-100,000-man army to run around murdering all these innocent people, killing Muslims, killing Christians, and then our media sits there and tries to spin it when Anderson Cooper is endorsing the rebels in Libya, in Egypt, in places like we see in Syria. And then even our arch allies, the Egyptians, go and join the Russians now, and it's on national TV there and in their print that our government runs ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
Another threat that President Obama mentioned was ISIS. Well, who on earth armed them? Who helped to arm the Syrians that were fighting against Assad? Who created the necessary political climate that facilitated this situation? Who pushed for the delivery of arms to the area? Do you really not understand as to who is fighting in Syria?
A, do you agree with that? And then B, what do you think this signifies that they would be so bold as to run this radical proxy army against the world with a hope of having a clash of civilizations and then blaming it on Islam and the Muslim world in general? I mean, cannot the Muslim world see it's a major setup, a part 2 of 9/11?
There is a power in one that is called Mahdi. That's the guide that the Islamic world has been expecting. And Masih, or Messiah, which the Christian and Jewish world have been expecting. And this Mahdi, when he comes, his number one aim is to set justice in the earth and remove every tyrant and set up a government of peace. That's his aim. That's the aim of the Messiah, the Christ. Now what we are looking at, these are not spooks and spirits that come out of space. These are human beings anointed with power and wisdom to do exactly what they purpose to do. That's why I know the globalists will never win. It appears that they're winning, but their plot is turning in against them. God has said, you have to reap now what you've sown. You've destroyed cities and towns in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, things that you didn't want. America destroyed them. Now look at your cities. They're underwater. Your farmland being destroyed. Fire burning the lands of California and the West. Tornadoes, hurricanes.
And it's just the beginning if we don't.
This is just the beginning. And that is what I wanted to say about whoever will be our president. If you're not dealing with that which has incurred the wrath of God, then you can't make America great again. And you can't bring America back from the abyss that she's falling into. Within the next few years, the dollar that we kill each other for will be devalued into nothing. What will people use when the dollar is gone? What will happen to the world? A war is coming. And that war will clean the slate. And whatever is left will find a way to become one with each other. We have no other alternative than either to live together in peace.
We have gangsters running this country. Criminals, gangsters.
The bigger this war gets, the more freedoms we lose.
We have a fog that has descended on our entire nation.
The globalists are going to blow stuff up and blame it on you.
Well, Hillary's the one who runs the cover-up.
Everything you've heard us talk about is now going to unfold in triplicate spades.
It's as real as it gets.
I had a Supreme Court justice tell me to my face, it's over for me. I said, Matt, it's over for you. They've got the votes now to enforce copyright law. You're out of there.
You want it, baby? You're about to get it.
We did meet the British at Concord Bridge to serve tea, be tolerant, and see how many guns or what kind of guns they came to take. We met them at Concord Bridge, and we blew their punk-ass brains out.
InfoWars has been able to break every record, infiltrate every operation, blow the criminal cover of operatives more than any other institution out there of freedom. And I'm so proud of that.
The notion that Hillary has somehow been an advocate for women, no, Bill rapes them physically, and then Hillary rapes them psychologically.
I hope the enemies of this broadcast, when you lie about us, when you censor us, when you attack us, when you delist us, when you do that, you're signing on to the other side.
These people are of the devil. Let's be very blunt about this.
Raise hell and demand accountability.
It is the most corrupt, degenerate, criminal government in American history.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
The crowd is now moving forward toward the barrier. The police have been telling everybody they're going to shoot if we don't move back.
Their defeat will be ultimately a crushing one.
This is the heart of 1776.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.